and Engineering of Dr.M.G.R Education and Research Institute. A warm welcome to all the participants who are here to attend the sixth day of 7 days online FDP on challenges in cybercrime and enforcement of cybersecurity. So, in this regard, I would like to call Mr. P. Dinesh Kumar, Additional HOD, Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Dr.M.G.R Educational Research Institute, to give the welcome address. Please, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, one and all present here. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Dr. M.G.R Educational and Research Institute, for the 6th day of online faculty development program on challenges in cybercrime and enforcement of cybersecurity. I would like to thank our respected President, Engineer A.C.S. Arun Kumar, Vice Chancellor Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi Madam, Registrar Dr. Palnivelu, Joint Registrar Dr. Cyril Raj, and Dean ENT Dr. Sindhil Velan for their continuous support to perform this kind of FDP. I would like to welcome guest speaker of the day, dynamic personality, Mr. Mohammad Swaheeb, Cybersecurity Solution Architect, L&T Smart World and Communication. He is a well-known person for cybersecurity. Sir, I wish to thank you very much for being with us today to share your valuable knowledge. I would like to extend a hearty welcome to all the participants and faculty members for the 6th day of 7-day online FTP program. Today title is Incident Response. Along with our faculty team, once again, I welcome you all for this knowledge sharing event. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh, sir. Next, I would like to call Dr. N. Kanya, Professor and Head of the Department of Information Technology of Dr. M.G.R Education and Research Institute, to give the introduction about today's speaker. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Usha, ma'am. I'm Dr. Kanya, HOD, Department of Information Technology, Dr. M.G.R Educational Research Institute. It's my pleasure to introduce the chief guest as well as speaker of today's session. He is also our alumni of 2010 batch. We are proud and happy to introduce and welcome our alumni, Mr. Mohammad Sahib. Mohammad Sahib is a cybersecurity professional with 13 years experience in incident response, digital forensics, security operation and engineering. He is also a well-known public speaker on key cybersecurity issues. Mr. Mohammad worked in law enforcement agencies on various cybercrime based in India and abroad. During his early career, he was responsible for implementing and managing intrusion prevention system, intrusion prevention system, content filtering system, two-factor authentication, and antivirus. He later joined an IT Fortune 100 company and was the founder member of their global cybersecurity incident response team, CSIRT. Mr. Mohammad designed and built a cyber forensics and malware analysis lab and was responsible for designing and developing cybersecurity and incident response process. He developed a playbook for the organization to automate the IR process to speed up the analysis. Mr. Mohammad has expertise in digital forensics, cyber incidents, responses, malwares, and analysis, malware analysis, vulnerability assessment, and penetration testing. He is certified in reputed certification. He is a certified person in reputed certifications such as GIAC, GNFC, GCFA, Guidance ENCE, and EC Council certified person. And he is also a CEH certified person. The Department of CSE and IT is happy and proud to invite our alumni as our resource person. Welcome, Mr. Mohammad Sahib.
Thank you, Kanya ma'am. So it's the time to listen to our speaker today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, HOD ma'am. Thank you very much for having me today. And I always feel proud that I'm an M.G.R product. So I come from Dr. M.G.R University, and we really learned a lot of things which helped us in shaping our career as well. Okay, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share my experience, industry experience on incident response. because incident response is it's a very important topic in today's cybersecurity world, because organizations have slowly moving from uh, prevention to detection and response, because breach, hacking, compromises can happen at any time. So none of the prevention technology what currently organization have can guarantee 100% guarantee that the security breach won't happen in their environment. So it's always better for organization to have their incident response plan, procedure, and process ready to tackle any such situation they may face. Okay, so hope everybody is able to see my screen. Okay, so
No, Sahib. Can you share your presentation, please?
yeah, okay. How about now?
Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
proceed, Sahib.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. So again, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone. The advantage of having a virtual meeting is people from different time zone can join based on their convenience. So I would like to welcome everybody who is listening to this live broadcast, and thank you again to my department for inviting me here. As I said, incident response is very important for any organization for a certain reason. Uh, if you are a cybersecurity enthusiast who read about cybersecurity, who follow cybersecurity news, then I'm sure you would have seen a lot of security related information or breach related news every day, right? So to give you a perspective or just talk about some numbers or statistics, so what do you think, what is the estimated cost of cybercrime globally? So this is something I ask individual to just guess, like what do they think, what is the estimated cost of a cybercrime globally? Anybody wants to guess it? It's 600 billion. So as a survey done in 2017, which is pretty old, so that says the global cyber crime cost is 600 billion, which is going to reach in trillion in couple of years. Okay, so that is the kind of impact we are talking about in today's cyber world, right? So we are seeing almost 3 lakhs, or I would say like zero point 0.3 million new malwares coming up every day. So, so think about the volume of malware coming every day in internet, and then kind of resources you need to identify those malwares, have protection for those malwares. We are also seeing like almost 30,000 phishing attacks happening every day, 4,000 ransomware attacks happening around the world every day. So and the other question I thought of asking here is, what is the most expensive type of attack you would think? There are different type of attacks. So what is the most expensive type of attack? And the answer is it's malware. 2.6 million annually, or the organization, they lose 2.6 million annually towards fighting against malware or malware attacks, right? So why are we seeing such a surge in cybercrime? Why are we seeing such increasing numbers in cybercrime? There are certain reasons for that, because one is advancement of technology. Obviously, as technology it is advancing, the adversaries also started using technology to attack, or to have better uh, attack tactics and techniques, right? So similarly, we are also seeing platforms where malwares, ransomwares are served as a service. So those days were gone when hackers were smart enough. People were the hackers. We used to call them are smart people who know the technology in and out, who understand the operating system in and out. But nowadays, if you just know how to search and how to reach in deep and dark websites, then you can hire these malwares. You can buy these malwares, ransomware as a service. There are 6,000 online criminal marketplaces who sells ransomware. So you don't need to do anything. You just need to pay 40-50 dollars to get a malware, and then I would say they have pretty good tech support team, and it's like it's equivalent to what other IT service providers have. So these guys provide you all the technical support. They answer your queries. They support you if your malware is getting detected by some antivirus. So all these things are well established, well organized. So you don't need to do anything. You just have to go to those marketplaces and buy a ransomware, and then start spreading those and then earn money. So that's how people are. This is the quickest way people are using to earn money, and then because of these reasons, we are seeing a very high spike in cybercrime in today's world. Okay, so there are four type of security breaches, or the breaches, people involved in those breaches. 76% of breaches are financially motivated. Obviously, when attackers attack some organization, they should have some motive behind it, right? So 76% of breaches are financial motivated. 49% of malwares were installed via email. So I just thought of giving you some numbers before we jump into incident response. This will help us to set the context, and then we will take it forward. 28% breaches are involved in an internal actors. So internal actors also contribute to security breaches. So if you see 28% breaches happen because of internal actors or internal threats. 12% are privilege misuse. Like again, the people who are having some privileged access, they misuse their privilege, and then breaches happen because of that. Okay, so we saw the trend. We saw the how breaches was happened, or who contributed to those breaches. And now let's discuss about the threat actors, right? So when somebody does an incident response, or somebody analyze an incident, it's important for that individual, he or she, to know who are all the threat actors who could attack that organization. So the first category is opportunistics. So these are all maybe budding hackers, or script kiddies we call in cyber term. So those are all people who continuously scan internet to find any vulnerable IP addresses, vulnerable ports, vulnerable services, vulnerable applications, and then they try to hack into those things, either maybe to gain some financial advantage, or to prove something, or just for fun. The second type of threat actor is hacktivists. So hacktivists are politically motivated attackers. So when India banned a certain access to the internet, like pornography were banned few years back in India. You cannot access pornography from Indian IP addresses. So people felt that we are putting a lot of restriction on internet. It's becoming controlled and monitored. So they started attacking those ISPs who banned those websites, right? Similarly, if a hacker has some political agenda or political motive, they try to enforce on others. So those kind of hackers called hacktivists. The third one is insider threats. These are shouted to be most dangerous attackers, because they have access to the to the network. So because they are employees, or they are contractors who have access to your environment, So they are treated as they can do a lot of damages to the organization. So that is your third type of attackers are insider threats. The fourth one is, and then the most sophisticated one is called state sponsored. So state sponsored in the sense they are backed by their countries, they are backed by certain groups. So these attackers have all the money they want, all the resources they want, all the time they want to attack a country, or attack someone to gather intelligence. So you might have heard about cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is like war in cyber world. So every countries have their own advanced persistent threats, APTs, to attack or to monitor certain people to gather intelligence for their benefit. So those are all state sponsored, most sophisticated and highly skilled attackers are called state sponsored attackers. So I thought of giving you some example of recent attacks or breaches happen around the world. So you might have heard about a recent attack on Cognizant IT network. So Cognizant was attacked by Maze ransomware. Their internal systems were compromised and data were exfiltrated. The entire system was down for a couple of weeks. They lost a lot of money because of the Maze ransomware. So the other one is the 4 person were arrested in India by cyber wing Cyberabad police for stealing confidential data from a pharma company. So this is a classic example of insider threat. The 4 person who were arrested, they worked in that pharma company. The mastermind who mastermind was hired first, and then slowly he brought a couple of more people along with him, and then they started stealing information, the pharma, the formulas from that company, and started another company somewhere in Visakhapatnam to create the same medicine. Okay, so those 4 individuals were arrested by the cybercrime police. Saudi mobile operators, they exploited a flaw in their telecommunication network, and use that flaw to monitor their individuals who are traveling abroad. So this is for to gather more intelligence about people, what they're doing, and high value targets, where they're going, whom they're meeting. So by using the telecommunication network flaw, they were able to gather those information. Chinese trade actors, we all must have read in news. India and Chinese are in discussion about certain issues happen in our border, and then after that, India has banned certain applications, Chinese application, a 40 odd application here in India, and then we are seeing an increasing number of cyber attacks coming from China. So there were like 40,300 attempts were made in 5 days. So this was a news published a couple of weeks ago. So the other one example I thought of giving it to you guys is a suspected nation state hacking group was discovered targeting industrial sector companies in Iran because of their nuclear program. So these are a few attacks or breach happened in recent past, which I thought of sharing with you all. So before we move to event and incident, does anybody has any question?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Hello.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. One of the question: how darknet contributes to card fraud incidents?
Okay.
Card fraud.
So card fraud. So there is an objective for people stealing, excuse me, credit card or debit card information. right? So there is two way of doing that. Once you steal those information, what are you going to do with that information? So there's two way to do any financial transaction. One is either you use those stolen credit card and debit card informations to purchase something, and second thing is you sell those information in darknet or in deepnet for people to use it. So what people do is, or what hackers do, they collect credit card and debit card information using various keyloggers and schemers installed in ATMs or in POS machine. And once they have that database, they sell those database in dark web for people to use those for fraudulent transaction, maybe for buying drugs, or maybe buying contrabands, buying weapons, etc., or even buying ransomware using those credit cards. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, sir. The next question is Ubuntu safer than other platforms?
Okay, great question. I get this question very often. Is Ubuntu is safer than Windows, or is Mac safer than Windows? So one thing which you need to consider here is what is or what percentage of internet connected devices have Ubuntu, Mac, or Windows. If you see that percentage, 40-50% would be Windows based operating system or Windows based system, correct? So
Yes.
what happens is when a adversary creates a program or creates a malware, they want to commercialize as much they can, right?
Okay.
So they mostly develop something for Windows because most of the people use Windows, and so that they can impact more. So if I am a malware developer, if I am a ransomware developer, and if I want to infect most of the machine in internet and try to get bitcoins or money for uh, or by encrypting their systems, if I demand for ransom, then I would obviously prefer Windows. So that's why you see a lot malwares are Windows based malwares. But it's not true that Unix based or Mac based systems are fully protected. Couple of days back, if you would have read the news that Mac has got a first Mac based ransomware program, because slowly people are adopting Mac and Unix. You will see an increasing trend of malwares infecting these operating systems as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you. You can proceed. Thank
Thank you. Those were really great questions. Thanks a lot for that. So, what is the difference between event and incident? Right? Not all the events can be considered as incident, because events can be positive or negative. For an example, my marriage is an event for me. It's not an incident. That's what I said. I always say in front of my wife that it's an event, but I know the reality. Jokes apart, but that's how events can have it can be a positive or can be a negative impact. But whereas incidents are always have negative impact. Okay, negative impact to the business. So that's why we say all incidents are events, but not all events are incidents. Hope you are clear. Okay, so let's talk about the incident categories, right? We saw who are all our threat actors could be. We saw what is the difference between an event and incident. Let's discuss how industry categorize or majorly categorize this incident. It can vary in your organization, it can vary in some of the organization, but broadly how they classify incidents, right? So the first is malicious code, a software written for it's software with the malicious intent can be categorized as malicious code. So there are certain subcategories under malicious code. If you want to further drill down, saying that malicious code subcategory ransomware, malicious code subcategory maybe a keylogger, so you can do that. But broadly we classify incident, or any incident where a malicious code is involved as a malicious incident or malicious code incident. Second is denial of service. So denial of service is when you restrict somebody accessing something. So that could cause a denial of service. So the attack successfully prevents someone or a legitimate user to access something is called denial of service. Third one is data leakage. So any leakage of confidential information incident can be considered as data leakage incident. So similarly, phishing is another technique to extract user passwords mostly, or any confidential information from individual. So you can there are uh, many subcategories under phishing. It can be a spear phishing. It can be other social engineering technique. So we broadly classify those incidents are phishing incidents. Unauthorized access. So any access to your environment or your IT environment or OT environment or IoT environment. So any unauthorized access either by internal actors or external actors can be considered as unauthorized access incident. The last is improper usage, because almost every company have their own acceptable usage policy. If they are ISO 27001 certified or a NIST, if they follow NIST framework, so they have their IT security policy. If anything, any access it violates those do's and don'ts defined in those policies, can be categorized as improper usage incident. So the next thing we will discuss is active and passive incident response. So there are two types of incident response you can encounter with. One is either you will be ending up doing an active response. When I say active response, is it means the hacking is in progress, and you got notified and you have to investigate that incident when it's happening. The second one is investigating a past incident. The incident might have occurred in past, and then you got notified about it, and then you are doing an investigation. So this is broadly two type of investigation type. One is active, another one is passive. Incident response life cycle. So this is NIST 861 R2. The process what you saw on your screen, it is defined by NIST. So there are 4 different phases of incident response life cycle. One is preparation. Second one is detection and analysis. Third one is containment, eradication, recovery. Fourth one is post incident activity. Right. So this is very well documented in NIST IR guide. You can go back and review. So each phases have certain steps to follow when you are investigating an incident. So we will go through those steps in subsequent slides. So preparation phase. So preparation phase is the first phase of incident response life cycle. So in this phase, you prepare your organization to handle any cybersecurity incident, right? So how do you prepare an organization to handle cybersecurity incident? The first thing what you need to do is you need to create an incident response policy. Okay, and also you need to create SOPs, standard operating procedures, or we call playbooks, to handle the different types of incident you may face. The broader classification we discussed a few minutes back. So for just take an example of malicious code. What should I do when I encounter with a malicious code incident, or when I engaged in investigating a malicious code incident? So that needs to be clearly documented. Step by step process should be there, because when incident happens, it will definitely going to create a chaotic environment. Okay, and that point of time when everybody is behind your ears, and everybody is behind you, asking for updates, asking what is happening, how this happened, why this happened, there are chances that you may miss some critical steps which will have significant impact to the organization. So it's always recommended to have a documented policy, a documented SOPs or playbooks to handle certain type of incident, because that would give you a guidance during those chaotic situation. Okay, this is my step 1, step 2, step 3, and this is how I should handle this investigation. Similarly, contact information. So incident response is not an individual's task. It's not a only one team's responsibility, right? Because one team cannot handle all the activities involved in a response plan, because you may need support from Windows team, you may need support from database administrator, you may need support from a guy who manages your firewall, you may need support from guy who manages your Active Directory. So it's a collective effort. So you need to have all those expertise or SMEs part of your core group who will be working with you in the entire incident response life cycle. So it's imperative for you to have their contact information readily available. You should not be looking for their contact information during those crucial moment, because incident response is a time bound, time sensitive activity. Every passing minute will may increase or may magnify the impact of that incident. So you should not be losing those crucial moments by and just going and looking for contact information. So you should have those contact information readily available with you, handy with you, in case you end up investigating a critical incident. You also should have incident reporting mechanism. So how my employees can report an incident, how my partners can report an incident, how my suppliers can report an incident, how my contractors can report an incident, because that is your detection mechanism. So if somebody noticed something, then they should immediately notify you or give you a notification, so that you can trigger a response to that incident, right? So you should define that incident reporting mechanism either by having through email or ticketing system, or you want to have a hotline monitored 24/7 by your level 1 analyst. We call them as incident handlers, so that people can reach out to them if when they find something suspicious or something abnormal with their system or network, right? You also need to have digital forensic, malware analysis, network forensic tools in your arsenal, because those are important when you are investigating an incident, because you may need them, excuse me, you may need them in triaging, you may need them in analyzing evidences, evidences related to the incident. Okay, you also should have evidence gathering and processing tools, evidence management tools, because that is important. What if an incident is an incident which can be treated as a legal matter, right? So in that case, what should be my response? How should I preserve those evidences captured during that investigation? So what would be my chain of custody? So chain of custody is uh, how a particular evidence was handled throughout its life cycle, from triaging, acquiring, analysis, storing and destroying. So entire life cycle or entire chain is established and documented, so that when you present this to court should accept it. Because if chain of custody is tampered, chain of custody is broken, then a court won't accept those evidences or those artifacts as evidences pertaining to that case. User awareness is also important. You should tell your employees, tell your contractors what they should, how they should behave, or what is their do's and don'ts during an incident. Who should communicate with media person? Do they have authorization to communicate about an incident to media person? So all those aspects should be covered in your user awareness program related to your incident response plan. The second one is your detection and analysis. So now in first phase, you have established a incident response team. You have created a policy. You have created procedures. You have created SOPs, and you have a reporting mechanism available, and also you have all the required tools with you to investigate any kind of incident. The second thing or second step is detection and analysis. So what you would be doing in detection analysis is you will be finding the attack vector. So what is my attack vector? For an example, if it is an unauthorized access incident, how does the hacker or the adversary got access to my environment? Now, did they come through my externally exposed website, or or they brute force my RDP server or remote desktop server, which was unfortunately exposed to internet. So you need to find those attack vectors, and you also look for sign of incident. So what, like we discuss about events and incident, so you need to define what can be considered as an incident, and what can be ignored because those are not incidents. Source of precursor or indicators. So indicators are will let you know what exactly happened, how that happened, and which would help you in your incident analysis phase. So incident analysis phase consists of 7 or 8 different sub steps. One is like incident scoping and triaging. So when you do an incident scope, you try to find out how many systems are compromised, how many user IDs are compromised, because incident scoping is it's very important for you because your entire containment, eradication, and recovery strategy depends on your scope. So if you fail to scope the incident properly, then there will be a chances that your containment strategy won't work, because you don't know what is your scope, or how many systems, or how many user IDs, or how many data sets were compromised. Incident prioritization, where after collecting the basic information, the triage information, you try to do a preliminary prioritization of the incident based on the impact, based on the severity, and then you either declare it as a critical incident, or a high incident, or a medium incident, or a low incident. So that's how industry assign priority to the incident based on the impact. Profile network and systems. So that is like you need to baseline your environment so that anything happens which is abnormal can be easily detected. You can detect those abnormal behavior. Normal versus evil. So you need to know what is normal in my environment as an incident responder, so that it will be easy for you to differentiate the bad stuff happening within your network. Event correlation, you collect a lot of information from different sources. You collect information from your Active Directory, you collect information from your firewall, you collect information from your IPS, you collect information from your other security devices, and then now you need to correlate all those informations to get meaningful intelligence out of it. So SIEM is one tool which can help you to correlate data. There are other tools, linking tools or link analysis tools also are available, which you can use to correlate data from different sources and get meaningful information which would help you in your investigation. Okay, intelligence driven analysis. When you investigate, you identify indicators of compromise, then you try to gather more intelligence about those indicators of compromise. So you do open source intelligence searches, you try to enrich that information with other data to get more information about your attacker, more information about your more information about their TTPs, tactics, techniques, so that you can use those informations to do further investigation or broaden your scope to identify more compromised machines or user accounts. Incident documentation is the step where you document each and every activities you perform. So you may have to capture the incident information, what is, well, who is my threat actor, when this incident happened, incident date and time, and then your brief summary about the investigation, outcome of that investigation. So all those comes under incident documentation. Chain of custody, we discussed in previous slide. Chain of custody, you have to establish the entire chain of custody. How did you identify those artifacts, how did you acquire those artifacts, how you transfer those artifacts, how you store those artifacts. So all those and information you need to have it in your chain of custody document, clearly documented, so that in case if that turns out to be a legal incident, then you can present your evidence in court of law. Incident notification is a process you need to define. If it is a critical incident, do I need to inform law enforcement? Do I need to inform maybe emergency response team outside of my organization? Those things also needs to be defined and well documented as part of your incident notification process. So I'll take a couple of minutes pause here. If anybody has any question, we can discuss and then move on.
Yes, sir. There is a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. How to identify vulnerability in network?
How to identify vulnerability in network?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are certain ways you can identify vulnerability in network. Okay, so the process is you do reconnaissance, right? Reconnaissance is the first step for you to gather more information about that network. When you say network, it could be an organization for whom you're engaged to do vulnerability assessment, right? Or as a bug bounty programmer, you're trying to find some bug or some information about some organization. So you do reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is you're trying to find as much information you can about that network to help you build your scanners to scan for certain vulnerabilities, right? I don't want to generate a lot of noise when I do scan, so it's important for me to understand the network in a better way. From where do you find those information? There are a lot of ways you can find those information. So reconnaissance happens in two phases. One is active, another one is passive. So in active reconnaissance, I directly interact with that company's network to gather more information. For an example, I do a port scan to gather that if this port is open or not, if this IP is active or not. So that is active reconnaissance. Passive reconnaissance, I use other passive tools. For an example, Google search. So if I know that this company, or maybe I am just trying to find more information about a company called XYZ, I would try to search that. Okay, let me try to find out how many people or is this company hiring anyone right now. So there will be a lot many information about their HR posting some job description, or for they're hiring for certain skill set, right? So you can get more information about that. For an example, if a company posted in a job posting site saying that they need a Juniper firewall administrator with 7 years of experience working, the job location is Chennai, then you can fairly assume that that company mostly would have a Juniper firewall, and that the firewall location would be Chennai. So that is how you collect information and you build your database. Once you have the database, scan those IP addresses for those certain vulnerabilities. If I know that they may be using Juniper, then I may have plugins for Juniper to scan and see if that particular software installed has any vulnerability or not. And once you have that vulnerability, then either you would report or you try to further exploit it or do penetration.
Thank you, sir. The next question, how to frame a cybersecurity policy and crisis management plan for an organization?
So cybersecurity, it depends what regulation or standard you would like to follow. So if you follow ISO 27001, then there are defined categories. You need to first define your statement of applicability, which is SOA, and then based on that you create your cybersecurity policy. If somebody is following NIST CSF cybersecurity framework, then they need to align their policy with CSF. Crisis management is like your incident response will fall under a bigger umbrella of crisis management. So crisis, you need to first define what is crisis for you, right? Maybe when my output reduces to 20%, then I would declare this as a crisis. So you have to define those in your crisis management plan. And as I said, your incident response entire plan also would complement to your overall crisis management program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You can proceed.
Yeah. So the next step is containment, eradication, and recovery. So as I said, your scoping is important because you would use that data here in creating a strategy for your containment, eradication, and recovery based on your analysis from the previous stages. Like from your detection analysis, you take those as your input and then try to build your strategy for containment, eradication, recovery. So there are key areas you need to consider when you define a containment, eradication, and recovery strategy. So containment is like we all are hearing containment very often and in last few months, right? Because of this COVID-19 unfortunate situation we all are facing. Hope everybody is safe and fine. But we are hearing a lot of quarantine and containment zone. So containment zone is nothing but you're trying to restrict that incident to a certain level. Okay, so that is your containment strategy. So you identified an incident, you scoped it, you investigated it, you've identified information, and then my next logical approach is how would I contain that incident? So if it is like 5 machines are infected, if that is my scope, I would like to restrict that scope to those 5 machines. So I should not allow that attacker to go out of those 5 machines and infect another 5,000 machines. So that is my containment strategy. Eradication and recovery. So once your containment is done, your investigation is done, you're fairly confident that you have answers to all those questions, like why this happened, who was behind it, how this happened, and then you try to completely eradicate and recover your system from that incident, right? So the key consideration here are type of incident, potential damage, like what is my potential damage, need for evidence preservation. So do I need to keep this evidences securely for any litigation in future? Should I keep it for 1 year? Should I keep it for 3 years? Should I keep it for 7 years? So anything in India, if it is a if you anticipate any legal litigation and all, it's advisable to have the record for 7 years. The service availability. So when you do containment, so you also need to do a business impact analysis to see what. So if I restrict that particular, if I isolate that network, or if I isolate those certain machines, what would be my impact to the business? Time and resource required. So the content strategy which you have defined, how many resources it needs, how much time it needs to implement that also you need to consider. Effectiveness of the strategy, like it is like fully contained or partially contained. Can I completely contain that incident, or I need to have partially contain it and have some workaround to address certain issues? You need to consider those things before you design a containment strategy. Recovery, like, do I have a backup? How, if a system is infected with a ransomware, so where my backups are stored? Can I restore my systems to a previous known good state? So those things you need to consider when you create a strategy for your containment, eradication, and recovery. The next step is post-incident activity. So you're done with the investigations. You're completely contained that contained that incident, eradicated and recovered from that incident. And now, what next? So post-incident activity is something where you discuss about a lot of things, good or bad, happened during that incident, and then try to take lesson learned from that, so that you can prevent such incident in future, or react to those incident in a better way in future. So there are certain questions you should be asking. One is exactly what happened. So what exactly happened? Like, what is this incident? How did we perform? So okay, so we know that this incident happened, but rate yourself how you performed during the investigation, or during that entire response life cycle. Is there a way we can improve our performance? So that is the next question, is how to improve. What corrective action can prevent such incident in future? So you know the root cause why this happened. Now you would need to suggest some corrective action which can help you to prevent such incident in future, or help you to reduce the impact of such incident in the future. uh, then how can we improve the detection mechanism, right? So can we detect this incident at early stage, so that my impact can be reduced? So those things you need to discuss after the incident, and then incorporate those changes. You also have to review your incident response plan. You have to review your incident response procedures to see how that helped you in this incident. Is there anything you would like to change in your plan, so that you can be better prepared for such incident in future? So incident response team. So as I said, incident response team consists of different SMEs, comes from different backgrounds. So it like the core team can have people who have knowledge in Windows forensic, who have knowledge in Linux forensic or network forensic, malware investigators, malware reverse engineers. So that could be your core team. And then the supporting team would be from law enforcement, software hardware vendors, customer, maybe an external incident response team you would engage during an incident. Internet ISP service provider. So if you are facing a high volume or volumetric DDoS attack in your environment which you cannot handle, then you would definitely fall back to your internet service provider, ask them for some solution, right? So then your incident reporters, and also you'll have a communication team who will take care of all the communication going to public, because you need to control those communication as well, because once you the media is very active in recent days. So once incident happens, the news comes out within a minute, or within an hour. So you need to control, because uh, your shareholders, they know that the incident would happen, but your share value depends on how you respond to those incidents. How confident are you in your response plan? How confident are you in your overall response strategy? So that gives them the confidence, that gives all your shareholders a confidence that yes, our organization is capable enough to handle those. So you need to have that confidence when you share these information with different stakeholders. So communication plays a very important role in overall incident response life cycle itself. So any question regarding incident response life cycle?
Is there? Hello.
Yes.
What do you think the most important considerations when developing a cybersecurity incident response plan?
What is the so sorry, could you please ask that question again?
Okay, sir. What do you think the most important considerations when developing a cybersecurity incident response plan?
Okay, so the one thing which you would definitely like to know is what is your organization's risk appetite, right? So that is very important for you to know. Based on that, you can define your overall plan, and also you need to consider your threat landscape. Not every company works or has the same threat landscape. So you need to do an assessment to identify your threat landscape, and then you have to align your incident response plan to it. So these are the two things. Or I would add another one is funding. Like the support from the management also is very important when you define and create an incident response plan. So three things: one is your risk appetite, support from your management, and what is my threat landscape.
Okay, sir. The next question: how to know about our server is attacked and data loss?
How to know if a server is attacked or
And
a
data
data loss
loss.
happened. Okay,
Yes.
so there are certain detection technique you should have, or detection solution we should have to detect any such incident. So there's two way you would identify that as is compromise. One is if you have a better detection capabilities, then you would detect that internally. Unfortunately, if you don't have, then somebody else will notify you. I have seen many cases where a third party would give notifications to the compromised company saying that, boss, we are seeing malicious activities from your network, or we are seeing malicious communication from servers. So this is two way. One is either you have a better detection capability which would help you to detect those incidents internally, or you would be notified by somebody or law enforcement agency that your environment is compromised.
Okay, sir. The next question: why we are using artificial intelligence technology in machine learning?
So artificial intelligence and machine learning is evolving. So I don't think they reach to a point where they are self-sufficient for your entire program. But yes, it's an advancement of technology. You can rely on them, but not completely. So machine learning is a technique you either do an guided learning or unsupervised learning, right? So if you have a network, and then if you have a detection system which learns what comes and goes out of your network for certain period of time to baseline it, and then detects anything beyond that, then yes, in those kind of scenarios we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning for better detection. But as I said, it would take a few more years to use these technology. But lot many companies and software developers or cybersecurity solutions are offering their solution, saying that they provide machine learning and artificial intelligence as well, but at the back end they are also learning. So it's a continuous learning process, and it will take some time to mature.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So we discussed about incident life cycle. And next is the cyber kill chain designed by Lockheed Martin. So Lockheed Martin has designed seven. Next is the cyber kill chain designed by Lockheed Martin. So Lockheed Martin has designed a seven-step cyber kill chain to these are different phases of an intrusion. Okay, so initially it was designed for identifying different phases involved in an intrusion attempt, but you can use the same technique to identify different phases of a breach life cycle itself, right? So the first stage is reconnaissance. The reconnaissance, as I said, like the vulnerability researchers or ethical hackers or white hat hackers, they also use reconnaissance as a technique to gather more information about their target, right? The same way the adversaries or the hackers also use the technique to gather more information about their target. So if somebody wants to target XYZ company, then definitely that person would like to know what is their uh, uh, what is their technology landscape, right? So do they use Windows? Do they use Unix? Do they have IoT devices? How many devices are connected to network? What kind of technology they use? What kind of firewall they have? Cybersecurity solutions they have, so that they can prepare their payloads to do maximum damage or to achieve that objective they want to achieve, right? So the attackers spend a lot of time doing reconnaissance about the target, get more information about them. So as I said, it's an active and passive reconnaissance. So active when I directly interact with the network or with the system and get more information. Passive is when I try to collect information from sources which are not directly connected to that environment itself. So it is very cyber kill chain is very important for incident response perspective as well, because when you detect an incident, it's important for you to detect at what stage it is, so that based on that your response will vary, the response will change. Reconnaissance is the phase if an attacker or an adversary is doing a passive reconnaissance. The chances of you detecting that would be difficult, but it's not impossible. There are technology you can adopt to, which would help you to detect certain reconnaissance activities. For an example, phishing attack or phishing domain. So if your company's website is xyz.com, and instead of XYZ, if somebody creates a domain called XYZ, instead of XYZ.com, if somebody creates a domain called XYZ.org or XYZ.in, you have different brand monitoring services offered by certain companies you can opt for, which would notify if some we call as cyber squatting domains. Somebody creates those domain for possible phishing attack, right? Or try to gain confidential information or domain taking over kind of incident. So similarly, you can opt for different dark and deep web monitoring services, where you can identify if somebody is trying to sell your data in dark and deep web, maybe compromise credentials, compromise card information, or if there is any chatter about hackers talking about performing a coordinated DDoS attack to your network. So all those you can detect, fairly detect, I would say, using different threat intelligence services. You can opt from different companies like CrowdStrike, Recorded Future, Blue so and other vendors. So the second step is, once you have enough information about reconnaissance, the second step is weaponization. So based on the data gathered in the first stage, the attacker weaponize their payload. For an example, if they identified that, okay, so this company has a sales team who works in Europe, and these are 10 people who work in their sales and finance team, and here is the CFO's name and email address. Then okay, so based on my objective, if my objective is to do a fraudulent transaction, or a CXO attack, we call. Let me send an email to CFO, say, which will impersonate saying that it's from CEO of that company, and then would ask you to do an immediate transaction on an urgent basis, right? So I as an attacker, create my payload or weaponize my payload based on the information I gathered from my reconnaissance phase. The third is delivery. Okay, now I have an email which I need to send it to. Then, or I have a malicious Word document or a presentation or a PDF document which I need to send it to certain people, which should evade any detection. So based on the information gathered about their technology, maybe they are using ironport as their spam filtering, or they're using Microsoft native email filtering services. So based on that, I try to create a payload which can evade those detection and can be delivered to the user's mailbox. So I'm just giving one example of either mal spam or a phishing. The next fourth stage is weaponization, where fourth stage is exploitation, where I exploit certain vulnerabilities. I exploit certain vulnerabilities, or I evade detection by adopting certain techniques so that I can install my malicious program. So exploitation is maybe in a PowerShell, VB script enabled Word document. If I send that to a person and clicks it, then it will exploit a vulnerability available in Windows Word, and then will communicate with an IP address or a C2C server to download additional payloads to the system. When I say payloads, it could be a binary, or it could be a command from the command and control. So installation is the phase where I installed malicious program. I install malicious application on the system, and then wait for my command and control. So if it is a ransomware, and then my phase 5 is complete, which is installation, then I would wait for my master to give me a command of what I need to do. Do I need to encrypt all the files, or do I need to encrypt certain files, or should I wait and then enumerate their network to find more information, and then encrypt it? So action and objectives, that is the final stage of cyber kill chain. So what exactly my objective is, and then how am I going to achieve that? If my objective is to exfiltrate data, then I'll take action on based on that. If my objective is to encrypt the system, then I'll take action based on that. If my objective is to just be there on the system and monitor the activities, then I would take action based on that. So that is action on objective. So any question on cyber kill chain?
Yes, sir. Questions are there.
Okay, great.
Is it possible to reveal any cyber attack in any company and how they are solving it?
uh, Reveal in the sense, I did not get that. So does that mean, can I report about an incident, or I can reveal it to the media?
Reveal it to media like that only, I think.
Yes, as I said, you have a responsibility to inform your stakeholders, your shareholders, and also to the local authorities about any such incident, right? So if as an organization you are used as a jump host to attack someone, then yes, you need to inform, and companies are coming forward and informing about cyber incident and actions. They're either their internal investigation team would investigate that incident, or they have some retainer program where they hire some third party investigators agencies like big four of the world, ENY, Deloitte, PwC, or some cyber forensic companies like Crawl, Mandiant, to investigate such incident and then have an independent review of that entire incident and submit the report to the stakeholders.
Thank you, sir. The next question one participant asked, today many companies using bring your own devices like that. So why
Mhm.
chances bring your own device, the own devices, the laptops or mobiles or whatever the things, sir. So why changes are there for threats? How to manage this? Moreover, many employees doing work from home also nowadays.
Okay, so work from home obviously opens a lot of or your threat landscape is now not restricted to your company's network. It's now every home from where people connect to your network, right? So there are certain things you can do uh, to avoid or can and reduce the risk of any cyber incident. One is a zero trust network, so where you have to properly authenticate every individual before they connect to their network. So to allow them, you have certain pointers to check before allowing their BOID or devices to connect to their network. We called NAC network access control, zero trust. NAC is part of your overall zero trust network, where I need to authenticate individual for each action. So initially, what was like before zero trust, how the things were working were is like you need to once you authenticate, you have access until you log off. But now every time I need access to certain resources, I need to authenticate myself, and also my device needs to authenticate, saying that okay, this device is clean, can connect to the network.
Thank you, sir. And another participant, a person working in cybersecurity is leaving his job and join in another company. How will you
Mhm.
manage the situation?
Okay, so every individual who join a company sign something called a non-disclosure agreement (NDA), and NDA is applicable even after you resign from that company. So if you disclose any information which can be treated as confidential, then the company has all the rights to take legal action on that individual.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You can proceed.
Thank you. So the next, I thought of having a exercise, a small exercise to see what we have learned from cyber kill chain. So the example I have here is about Maze ransomware. So there are certain steps, 11 steps I have documented here. So this is how typically a Maze ransomware works. But the orders have changed. I have changed those orders. It's not in a proper order. So go through it and then just try to take a note. I'll give maybe a couple of minutes for every individual to just align this according to what we saw in our previous slide, cyber kill chain. And then in the next slide, we will discuss about the correct order of correct order of Maze ransomware according to the cyber kill chain developed by Lockheed Martin. So I'll take a 2 minutes pause. I would request every individual to make a note of all the activities mentioned here or on your screen, and then arrange it properly. We will discuss about this in a subsequent slide. So you have 40 more seconds. Last 5 seconds. Okay, so here is the correct order of maize infection flow. You can compare with your list if you have prepared it. So in a search, compromised database for email addresses would fall under reconnaissance. Port scan for remote desktop protocol would also fall under reconnaissance, that is active reconnaissance. Search job portal to get company info, that is a passive reconnaissance activity. Weaponization, create malicious Word document, delivery email to IT department, exploit uh, 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 exploit Word vulnerability to run macros would fall under exploit phase. Installation, download the payload and execute. Command and control, connect to command and control server for instruction. Action and objective, infect other system part of the network, then encrypt all the files, exfiltrate the data. So these three were action or objective based on like Maze ransomware uh, uh, would have taken action on these three objectives. So how many of you got the right answer? So congratulations to people who have got the right answer. And then for other, and I'll check with the moderator if we are sharing this presentation. Then you can go back to Cybercrime, or you can read about Cybercrime and try to do this exercise again. So do we have any question on maize infection flow or Cybercrime?
No, sir, one question is there. Is there any software that can kill the ransomware?
That can kill the ransomware. So ransomware is part of a malware family, right? So it depends if your antivirus software has a signature to detect and block execution of ransomware. One thing. Second thing is you have something called EDR, endpoint detection and response solution, which are behavioral based detection. If you have defined such, if you have defined policies in EDR or HIPS, which is host intrusion prevention system, saying that I don't want anybody to encrypt more than 10 files within 5 minutes, right? So ransomware objective is to encrypt files and then demand encrypts and deletes files and then demand for ransom. So if you create such rules, yes, you can prevent prevent execution of ransomware attack or
Thank you,
ransomware
sir.
malware.
Another one question. Can firewalls reduce or stop cyber attacks?
Firewall, and in most of the organization, firewall is the first line of defense. Okay. So when you design a cybersecurity framework, when you design a cybersecurity program for an organization, you should follow defense in depth mechanism. Yes, to answer that question, yes, firewall can reduce the number of attacks passing through your firewall or coming to your network. But it depends how well you are configuring your policies. If I'm having a firewall in my network and then create a policy to allow any internet traffic towards my internal network, then it's no point of having that firewall device itself. It's just a copper wire for me, because you don't have rules to prevent any attacks. So firewall, there are next generation firewall, application aware firewall, which can help you to detect and prevent certain attacks, but it depends how you configure those devices and how you maintain those devices.
Sir, another one question. How sandboxing can help in mitigating ransomware? How sandboxing can help in mitigating the ransomware?
So sandboxing as a standalone device, it don't mitigate anything. Okay, but there are certain solution which we called anti-APT solutions, which is anti-advanced persistent threat, which includes sandbox and some network sensors to detect anomalies. So if you have that, yes, it can detect and help you to prevent certain attacks, certain ransomware attacks. Because what the solution do is like if there is a file coming from internet, it sends to sandbox and then wait for verdict to come. Once verdict comes as a malicious or clean, based on that it take actions. But sandbox as a standalone device, it will help you to extract additional indicators of compromise, which you can use to scope your investigation and find more information about your attacker. Hope that answers.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. The next is MITRE attack framework. So we discuss about cyber kill chain, and then which is like 7 stage detection mechanism. And here we have our phases of attack. Here we have 12 phases of an attack. So MITRE attack, now most of the organization are using MITRE attack. It is well documented framework. They have some great example about some ATP groups, how those ATP groups work. So here also the first step here is initial access. So how an attacker can gain access to the environment or initial access to the environment. It could be through email, or it could be through open remote connection, remote administration ports. It could be from a web-facing server or web-facing application, so they can get initial access to the system. Execution is what are the different ways a malware or an adversary can execute malicious payload on a system, right? So that is they have captured steps how a malware can execute on a machine. It can be executed from a temporary location, or it can be directly downloaded and copied to memory, which we call as a memoryless, or we called memoryless malware. uh, they don't leave traces on your hard drive. So that is execution. Persistent is, so once you have gain initial access, you executed a malicious payload, then how do I keep that connection active, or how do I maintain that access active, so that if the system reboots or if something happens, still I'll be able to maintain my access to that system. So that is your persistent mechanism. So we call as a ASEP, auto start entry point, or auto start entry points. So there are certain registry keys, there are certain file paths, certain way you can create a persistent mechanism. One registry key is auto run once in your registry. If you add any executable there, so every time your system starts, that malicious program would start. Another way of doing it is creating a scheduled task. So if a malware creates a scheduled task to run on certain activities, for an example, if I create a task to run a malicious program whenever user opens a browser, so that is a persistent mechanism I can create. The privilege escalation is, once you compromise a machine, you may get a lowest privilege and in the entire domain itself or entire infrastructure itself. How do I escalate my privilege, or how do I gain maximum level of access in that organization or in that system? So there are certain techniques like credential dumping is one. Credential dumping using mimikatz credential dumping, LSAS dump. You can extract credentials from memory, or you can search for passwords in a file to gain or do a privilege escalation. Defense evasion, so systems may have certain endpoint detection and prevention system like antivirus, your EDR, or your HIPS, endpoint firewall. So all those information, all those tools will be there in a system. So you can use that, or you can use your malware how to evade detection, how to create, how I can uninstall those and then get access. Credential access, like you access credential manager, you access files, SUC, if there is any store credentials are available. I just realized we have like 4-5 minutes more, so I am just rushing it, so that we can cover a couple of more slides I have. Discovery is a method you try to identify more systems in the network. Lateral movement, you try to infect other machines, part of the same network or different network. Collection, you collect information from different sources. Command and control, again we discussed, like connect with your master and get more information. Exfiltration, you do data exfiltration. And impact, what is the last objective of your attack, so you try to do certain action based on that. So tools and technologies, like there are certain tools you need to have to do incident response. One is remote investigation capabilities. You should have disk forensic capabilities. You should have memory, network, mobile, email forensic capabilities. You also should have malware analysis and open source threat intelligence capabilities to investigate. Remote investigations, I have mentioned a couple of open source and commercial solutions here. You can use for remote investigation, like Swift is a SANS open source VM. You can use it for remote investigation. F-response, access data. GRR is your open source EDR solution. OS query is your open source EDR solution. 10 micro is open source. 10 micro is commercial EDR solution. FireEye is a sandbox and an EDR solution. CrowdStrike, Encase, Carbon Black. So these are all certain tools you can use it for your remote investigation. Forensic tools, again, Swift is a forensic virtual machine. You can download it freely and then use it. Paraben, RSA, Celebrite is your mobile forensic. Access data for your disk forensic. Magnet, Axiom or Magnet, IEF, Blackback, Digital Intelligence, Warshak, Volatility, Elastic, MSAP. So these are all tools you can use it for your embedded forensic, disk forensic, or memory forensic. Malware analysis. So malware analysis, when you do malware analysis, you have file signature analysis, code signing analysis, file behavior analysis, obfuscation technique, process and DLL analysis, network socket analysis. You need to these are the few steps you need to verify when you do malware forensic or malware analysis. Certain tools would definitely would help you, like sandboxes, as we discussed, like Cuckoo Sandbox. Then your malware hybrid analysis, Zoe Sandbox. You have free open source Flare tool, again, Flare from FireEye, ProcDot, Broadcom, Virus Total, so OLEDBG, sysinternals. So these are the tools you can use it for malware analysis. Open source threat intelligence, you definitely need open source threat intelligence, access to open source threat intelligence when you investigate an incident, because you may need to find hashes, you may need to search for domain, you may need to search for email addresses involved in that incident. So you can use for hash, domain, email, IP, social media profiling, cryptocurrency analysis. There's certain tools which can help you in crypto analysis as well, like Cypher and other tools which will help you to identify the Bitcoin wallet details and other information too. That was my last slide. Question and answer we have discussed throughout the session. If somebody has any question, we can discuss. Like, I guess we have a couple of more minutes more. And I'm really sorry rushing you through from for those 4 or 5 slides. So if you have any question on those, we can discuss.
Saranam sir, shall I ask?
Yeah, proceed, ma'am.
Okay, but presentation going Adam. Okay, sir. The question is, how can we know that our system will be hacked by someone?
So you need to do a continuous monitoring of your system. You need to have continuous vulnerability assessment, penetration testing of your environment. You also need to do a risk assessment of your environment, do a threat landscaping analysis, do a business impact analysis to identify crown jewels available in your environment and what protection you have for those crown jewels. So these things would help you to identify what are the gaps in your environment, and you can prioritize fixing those gaps according to your risk appetite.
Thank you, sir. The next question, tell us any cyber attack in company and how they manage and overcome.
So I may not be able to disclose the confidential information, as I said, because of NDA I signed with my organizations. But a few well-known attack were like recently Cognizant was attacked, India Bull was attacked, a couple of other companies were attacked by Maze ransomware, and then they did pretty well. So they hired third-party consultant to review their entire systems. They were forthcoming in and sharing those information with all their stakeholders and shareholders, and also to media.
Yes, sir. The next question: what are the open source tools available to detect the spam mails?
So open source tool, it depends what email services you're using, right? If you're using a Microsoft Exchange or Microsoft email services or cloud services, they definitely have their own detection mechanism for spam filtering.
Yes, sir. The last question, sir: can you suggest some methods to overcome the cyber attacks commonly?
So it's a very broad term, right? So you as I said, you need to have a defense in depth principle, and you also should have need to know concept when you allow someone access to the environment. You also should adopt to the latest technology, which is zero trust network, to reduce the threat landscape. But if somebody asks, like, can we give 100% guarantee that cyber incident won't happen, then I would say none of your service provider can guarantee you that.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Aishwarya ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, it is
Yes,
Geeta.
ma'am.
Really, we are very proud to have wonderful, the sense, illuminate given an excellent presentation today. Really, we can proudly say our student is delivering a very good lecture on today. That's what, and lecture, very good example you are given for incident as well as event. And yes, really, I was laugh at me. Yes,
Yeah,
and then a lot of at end of the session, you have just given a lot of tools are available and provided by whom and all. Yes, really, it will be useful for the participants those who have attended today's session. Yes, thank you, Swaheeb. I am expecting you have to visit our lessons, our university, and since we have a BTech ISDF course, your suggestions are always welcome, and you can just help our department, especially for ISDF students, to get their placement as well as internship as concerned. Thank you.
definitely, I would do that. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Yeah, Mr.
Have a
Swahib,
nice day.
it was really a very wonderful session today we had. Thank you so much. So now it's my privilege to thank our founder chancellor, Thiru A.C. Shanmugam, our president engineer ACS Arun Kumar, vice chancellor Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, registrar Dr. C.B. Palanivelu, joint registrar Dr. V. Cyril Raj, dean ENT Dr. Sandil Velan, and today's speaker Mr. Mohammad Swahib, and last but not the least, all the participants who attended today's session. Thank you, one and all. And tomorrow is the last day, day 7. The topic of tomorrow's session is Web and Windows Logs, Packets Analysis and Forensics by Mr. R. Teja, Senior Cybersecurity Engineer, Cybergate, Abu Dhabi, UAE.